In Chapter 2, we're going to take a look at learning styles. And Tony Stockwell says, to learn anything fast and effectively, you have to see it, hear it, and feel it. So, as an adult learner, you want autonomy in the decision to learn. You don't want somebody else telling you you have to do things a certain way or you have to learn something at a certain time. You want to be in charge of the process. Your past experiences are going to affect your learning. The attitude that you bring to the classroom will affect your learning. You have self-imposed limits that could affect the learning. Okay? We all have different learning styles. We're going to talk about different thinking styles. Are you a creative thinker, a reflective thinker, a practical thinker, or a conceptual thinker? Okay, as a creative thinker, you like new information. You always want to ask why. Okay, you are usually excellent troubleshooters, and you're going to find the best way to do something. Okay? As a creative thinker, you're going to bring into being of something which did not exist before. You often find yourself inventing something which has never existed. You may invent something which exists elsewhere, but you're not aware of. You could invent a new process for doing something. You could reapply an existing process into a new process. You could develop a new way of looking at something. You could change the way someone else looks at something. It's said that creativity can be used to make products, processes, and services better, and it can be used to create them in the first place. Okay. So, are you a creative thinker? Are you a reflective thinker? Reflective thinking, it's a series of logical, rational steps based on scientific method of defining, analyzing, and solving a problem. Reflection can help you in many ways. It may help you understand your strengths and weaknesses. Reflection may help you identify and question your underlying values and beliefs. It may also help you acknowledge and challenge possible assumptions on which you base your ideas, your feelings, and your actions. It may also help you recognize areas of potential bias or discrimination. It may even help you acknowledge your fears. And reflection may help you identify possible inadequacies or areas for improvement. Are you a practical thinker? We want to look at the terms concrete and abstract. These are terms you're going to hear throughout your college career. Concrete, a concrete idea or a concrete thought is something that can be based upon experience and reality. You know that it exists, while an abstract thought is an idea. It may be nothing more than a thesis, but until you're able to take that abstract thought and actually be able to apply it to the real world, it's nothing but abstract, and so it's impractical. So from a practical thinker standpoint, if you are a practical thinker, you focus on thoughts and ideas that work and can only be applied in the real world. Anything else is nothing more than irrelevant or impractical. Practical thinking, it's really based upon the knowledge that you have gained through observation and experience. So, are you a practical thinker? Are you a hands-on learner? Are you a conceptual thinker? What is conceptual thinking? It's the ability to understand a situation or problem by identifying patterns or connections and addressing the key underlying issues. Conceptual thinking includes the integration of issues and factors into a conceptual framework. It involves using past professional or technical training and real-life experience, creativity, inductive reasoning, and intuitive processes that lead to potential solutions or viable alternatives that may not be obviously related or easily identified. Now, for those of you that are in the military, you've heard the term the big picture. Can you see the big picture? And what they're trying to do is get you to understand how your organization fits into the next level of the organization and ultimately into the Department of the Army, Department of the Air Force, Department of the Navy, or Coast Guard, and ultimately how your organization and your particular job fits into the bigger picture with the DoD and ultimately with the security of the United States. The next area we want to address is self-directed learning. As you can see on the screen from Knowles, Knowles says it's a process where individuals take the initiative in diagnosing needs, designing learning experiences, locating resources, and evaluating learning. Another way to put it is you, the individual student, take the initiative and the responsibility for what occurs, and you, the student, select, manage, and assess your own learning activities. And these learning activities can be pursued at any time, in any place, by any means, at any age. Now, many adult learners do resist taking control or initiating self-directed learning. They may feel intimidation in the classroom. They may have had negative experiences from previous classes or even with previous instructors. They may have experienced ambiguity in the learning process. And here's a pretty good saying. It's an anonymous saying. I hear. I tend to forget it. I hear and see something. I usually remember. I hear and see and do. I understand. So in this case, we're bringing all three learning styles to the forefront. Hearing, learning, and actually doing. As an adult learner, you have a preferred style of learning. It may be visual. You may have to see it. It may be auditory. You may have to hear it. It may be kinesthetic. In other words, you have to participate. You actually have to do it in order to learn it. If you're a visual learner, some of the characteristics of visual learning. You need to take very detailed notes. Do you find yourself taking pages and pages of notes on a particular lecture? If that's the case, you may be a visual learner. Typically, visual learners are neat and clean. If you're bored, you may find yourself looking out in la-la land, whether you're visualizing something in your brain or you're actually watching the clock on the wall. You like to see what you're learning. Some of the challenges a visual learner may face. You need to take classes or receive lectures that have pictures and diagrams in order to reinforce the learning. You like to memorize. It's easier for you to memorize your notes than to actually learn the process. As an auditory learner, you need to hear things. In the classroom, you find yourself struggling to understand a chapter that you've read. But if you hear the professor discuss the chapter, then that that leads to better understanding for you. One thing that I could suggest to you is, if you are an auditory learner, is to consider getting the textbook on tape, and then you can hear it, each chapter being read to you, and you may understand better that way than just reading to yourself. Now, some of the characteristics of auditory learning: you often sit closer to the front of the class where you can hear what's being said by the professor. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pay strict attention, but because you can hear, it contributes to your overall learning. You may find yourself reading aloud a particular homework assignment on a chapter that you're supposed to read. You may find yourself reading aloud. Again, that leads to enhanced learning for you. And if you're an auditory learner, you are going to have difficulty reading maps and deciphering particular diagrams. Again, one of the biggest challenges of the auditory learner is going to be the reading assignments. And you're going to be doing a lot of reading in college courses. And so if you are a very strong auditory learner, you may consider getting a textbook on tape where you actually have somebody reading the chapters aloud. That may actually contribute to your understanding of the material a lot better. Now, as a kinesthetic or tactile learner, you're going to learn through experience, through doing. You need to be involved. In the classroom, you'll find yourself often speaking with your hands or using gestures. You need to be an active participant. You have difficulty with straight lectures in a classroom. Your learning is enhanced by activities that allow you to be a part of the process. Some of the challenges that you face: you need those hands-on training opportunities. Again, if you're in a class that is 90% lecture, it's probably going to be pretty difficult for you, because you need those activities that you can participate in. You're going to get bored pretty easily if you're not engaged. So one of the suggestions is when you're deciding on choosing a particular course, is to look at the instructor that's teaching it, because all instructors are not the same. Some professors use a lot of lecture. Some professors use a lot of experiential or kinesthetic type learning. Myself, I'm a hands-on learner, so I integrate a lot of activities into my classroom activities. So, if you take one of my courses, you're going to have the opportunity to actively participate in the learning process. Again, know your instructors. Okay, understand your preferred learning style. Again, each of us learns differently. Look at the particular class you're going to take. Choose the professor that is going to deliver the material in a way that will enhance your learning, and develop some strategies. So, what can you do to set yourself up for success? Obviously, review the course syllabus. Look at the activities in the course syllabus. If you are a tactile learner, if you're a hands-on type learner, and you review the course syllabus, and you see that you have 11 sessions of lecture, 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 you may expect to have some difficulties with a particular course. Now, if you're an auditory type learner and there's 11 sessions of lecture, maybe right up your alley. Okay, again, look at the syllabus, see what the activities are, See if there are specific activities that you will be involved in to facilitate your learning. And with particular degree programs, there are going to be classes that you're going to have to take that you just don't like, and that's just the way it is. You're just going to have to overcome it. But through planning and gaining information, you should be able to maximize your preferred learning style by taking the classes that work to your strengths. Again, there are going to be a few classes that you can't do that, and you're just going to have to overcome the challenges. And we're going to close with a great proverb. To know and not to do is not to know. Thanks, and let's move on to the next chapter.